Oh, hey guys. How's it going? You like my background? We're in the jungle. This is another sit-down video. And we're in the jungle because we're talking about this guy right here. I know my last sit-down video was about Caleb as well, but listen. Caleb has a lot of symbolism to him. And that might be why I'm super drawn to this currently. I have lore on the brain. You can thank To Our Yesterday for this. This is going to be less analytical though, and more just kind of yappy, because I might be late to the metaphorical game, but some things were brought to my attention recently that I think deserve some attention for Caleb's third myth. Because that's going to be coming up pretty soon. Pretty soon, I think. And I think they've been telling us some things about Caleb's myth for a long time. Now, and I'm not just talking like more recently, like with his verdant wetlands and anything like that. I know the Adam and Eve thing has been bouncing around for some time. But there's some things that were brought up to my attention recently that I just need to share with the class. I've done some lore talking with a lot of people, but I just really need to share this with the class. Now, I am going to start out by saying that this will contain spoilers. So watch at your own discretion. Specifically, spoilers for Lucid Dream. Possibly. I mean, kind of. Not any heavy ones, but some spoilers. Anyways, I'd like to bring your attention to this little section. If you remember, MC was having a dream, and she had a dream about Caleb. And the dream goes a little something like this. I dreamed of him that night. There was no sun. He floated within the dark green jungle. The ropes that bound him morphed into vines sprouting from sturdy branches. They wrapped around his wrists and ankles like venomous snakes, flicking their tongues. Every muscle swelled under the vine's encroachment, tiny hair-like thorns piercing his skin and greedily siphoning nutrients from his flesh. They then injected him with new toxins in his nerves. His body trembled like a beast caught in a trap, struggling against the restraints that only grew tighter with every move. Finally, he crashed into the dirt, buried by leaves carrying the scent of decay. A wilted leaf fell down slowly. It covered his hollow eye sockets. The jungle devoured his body, leaving him a withered tree choked by its grasp. End. This was brought up to me by my lovely friend Lilith, who's part of the community. And I had totally forgotten about this dream. That was part of Lucid Dream. And then I brought it up to someone else, brought it up to a lady who is also a lovely person inside of the community. And she had forgotten about the dream also. And I figured that probably a majority of the community forgot about this dream. Which tells me that they've been thinking about this for a while. Or at least, anyways. The jungles have been part of Caleb since Lucid Dream. And now there's a few things, that could hint. There's still imagery about Adam and Eve. And I still think that could be part of it. They don't bring up thorns for no reason. Thorns are very heavy in the Christianity, and stuff like that. But There's a few things as well with Caleb's imagery that I haven't seen anybody else touch on that I kind of want to just touch on. First, we have the golden apples, which the apple is obviously associated with sin, the fall of man, that kind of stuff, worldly temptations, which, you know, Adam and Eve, apples, stuff like that, trees, the tree of life, stuff like that. But there's also a few other ones that are brought up as well. Specifically, the Greek mythology, apples are often seen as like for immortality, or there's the apple of discord, which led to the Trojan War. That in Irish myths, which is not generally what they use, but it's generally associated with otherworld and immortality as well. So golden apples are often related to immortality. We also have the leopard. And I was kind of curious what leopard's symbolism was in literature and like cultural mythology and stuff like that. And this is where things got kind of interesting. Now, leopards are often associated with power and strength, grace, stealth. But a lot of times they're also connected spiritually through like connecting to the stars or like hidden realms. In the Bible, they're known as like destructive sources, but in Greek mythology, they're linked to Dionysus, which is a god of greed, basically. But I did run into something interesting with Dionysus that I hadn't thought about before, or that I hadn't run into before. And Dionysus has a theme, or a story, a myth, about him called Twice Born, where Dionysus was born twice. Now, it could be nothing, obviously. It could just be whatever. But it was kind of interesting, kind of a theme of rebirth. Just kind of something that I thought was really kind of cool. But speaking of Greek mythology, there was something else that was brought up to me by a lady, which was Royal Mask. The plays in Royal Mask, and I hadn't noticed it at first. She was the one that caught it. Mimic the third myths of the guys. Zane's is kind of obscure still, kind of. But Xavier's had to do with Hamlet and the Mad King. Hamlet seen as mad a lot of times, stuff like that. Silas's is the devil growing old with his mortal. Silverwing Fiend. Raphael's a captured god, which is, I mean, the marine sea god was captured. And then there's Caleb's, which is about a hunter and the goddess falling in love. And it was brought to my attention about two Greek stories that involve a hunter and her brother. There's two stories involving Artemis and Apollo. The first one deals more with a hunter's story, a hunter dying, which is the story of Apollo, or no, I'm sorry, the story of Artemis and Orion, who bonded over their love of hunting. But Orion tragically died by a stray arrow that was given to Artemis by her jealous brother, Apollo. Again, may not be anything, but something to hold on to. Also, Orion's belt. We need to also, because this is the story of Orion's belt in the sky, which this is often associated with heartbreak. Artemis pleads with the gods, and they put Orion in the sky as a constellation. But then the other one is that it's also about divine jealousy because of Apollo and his jealousy over it. Sibling dynamics and jealousy. Anyways, speaking of Apollo though, because Apollo is a problem. Sorry, Apollo. At one point, Apollo was also after a nymph named Daphne, who was one of Artemis's nymphs. He was pursuing her, but Daphne did not want to be pursued. So, instead of being pursued by him, she turned herself into a tree. A laurel tree, to be exact. And the laurel tree's symbolism is, well, first off, it ended up being Apollo's sacred tree. But also in Christianity, it symbolizes resurrection. We've come full circle. We have come full circle. I promise this wasn't the ramblings of a madwoman. In Christianity, it comes to resurrection and humanity's triumph over death. Promise this was not the ramblings of a madwoman. I just really needed to get this out here for you guys, because I really think that you guys needed to know this, or at least I needed, if one person gets information out of this, listen, I'll take that as a win of me just rambling about this outwardly. We have some other theories, like one of them is spurred on by the toxin comment in Lucid Dream also, which I made the connection afterwards, but I know my community had been talking. I haven't really heard anybody else talking about it, but maybe again, I might be late to the metaphorical game again, but that Caleb is going to be a conduit for Astra, because it's hard to say whether Astra is just like a being for Zane, but also there's that toaster. But the mad toaster. But it's possible that Caleb could end up being a vessel for Astra. And just a connection that I could make with that was the toxin comment about them injecting toxins into Caleb, or the vines. And he is in the midst of Ever and the Far Space Fleet, which means that they're definitely, aside from the touring ship, they're definitely injecting him with their metal. But there are others. I don't know, Caleb's a clone of it, because Lady had brought up that, there was that one statement in Royal Mask where Caleb was like, the rib comment, which comes from the Adam and Eve comment, which, only spurs on that more. But she brought up that what would be the equivalent of a rib in sci-fi? Cloning, duh. What if Caleb's a clone of MC, which would still end up being the same source? I'm just saying, she's onto something. Most of these people are onto something. Listen, I talk to a lot of very creative and attentive ladies in this community. Uh, yeah, but those, I just needed to share this with everyone, with the community. I hadn't seen anybody talk about it, and I just really needed to go down this rabbit hole for a second with everybody. I just needed you guys to join in on my ramblings. Anyway, if you guys have more that you found, feel free to put them in the comments. Just yeah. Feel free to put them in the comments. Also, the Astra Toaster. Listen, we're not sure about that Astra Toaster, but anyway, thanks for joining me on my ramblings. I know this was just sort of me. This is probably going to be mostly uncut too, aside from me like putting in pictures so that I don't look like I'm just talking to myself in the forest with my happy little coffee mug. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I've been speaking for like 15 minutes now, just rambling about this. I hope that you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening. And as always, stay safe out there, hunters.